What's up, my beautiful family? It's your girl, Dr. Shonna, and I'm glad to be on here today, finally getting a chance to discuss with you guys Roe versus Wade. Now, as you guys are all preparing to come on, let me just go ahead and update you with the things that I need you all to know before we go ahead and get started. First and foremost, you need to all share the video. Why? Because I'm asking you politely to do so. Share the video with your friends, your family, your frenemies, so that they can know that we are on. Second, I want you to give this video a thumbs up if you are on Facebook, or subscribe to the channel if you are on YouTube. We have to be able to get the algorithms going. So I really need you guys to interact as much as possible. I love the fact that all of you guys are here, and I really do appreciate all your support. And I just need you guys just a little bit more to share this video because my channel has been shadow banned again. So I guess they didn't like my gun video that I did last time, and they have taken away its monetization. I don't know what I said that was wrong, but this is the reason why we all have to be active in sharing these videos so that we can make sure these conversations are going and that we can increase our critical thought, because on this channel is all about critical thought. So while all of you guys are coming on and sharing the video, which I appreciate, let me go ahead and give a big fat shout out to some special people in the chat. I want to give a big fat shout out to Neek is the Night. She's one of our researchers who comes up with some of our topics. And we also have RJ. I don't see her name coming on just yet, but RJ is a new researcher, and tonight's topic is due to RJ. So tonight we're going to give RJ the thanks. Neek is working on our next topic, which involves the Miranda rights laws that have been changed. You all need to know about the Miranda rights laws. So we're going to get on board with that. Second of all, or third of all, let me go ahead and get a fat shout out to Sid, who is our longtime supporter, who is there for me every step of the way. I've been getting your text messages, but as you can see, I'm bombarded and overwhelmed with a lot of information, but I am not forgetting you, Sid. And last but not least, for all of you ladies out there who have been ordering your products, I say thank you so much. You know, I'm known for my pheromone perfumes. 2 different types are on there, which is the Pure Instinct, and it is the Turn Off the Lights, which are pheromone perfumes. They all are available at helpingcouplesreconnect.com. I don't know about you all, but I stay using my pheromone candle, no BS. I'll show you how it looks. This is one of them. It's a massage oil candle in which my significant other absolutely loves. As you can see, is we use this sucker. He was so scared of it at first, but he realized it never burns the skin. And you know what? It just enhances everything. I just love massages, don't you? So go ahead and visit helpingcouplesreconnect.com to get your pheromone perfumes and your massage oil candles. And let's just make things popping, because it's all about saving Black marriages, saving Black relationships, building Black families, right? It's all about that. And that's part of the process, whether you want to agree with it or not. That brings me into today's conversation, brought to you by RJ. So shout out to everybody that says RJ. I saw her name in the audience. I'm going to go ahead and highlight her. I love you too, Gwendolyn. Thank you. I'm going to highlight RJ so you guys can be able to show RJ some love, right? And RJ, when I get on my other channel, I have to make you a moderator. But that's RJ. So she's today's topic for Roe versus Wade. Now, let's go ahead and get started. I got my disclaimer because I want y'all to get out of your emotions and out of your feelings. Some of y'all going to want me to be really mad. I'm not. I'm just being honest with y'all straight up. So you want to go ahead and click off this channel, go ahead and click off of it if you want to. But if you want to think critically and if you want to understand why I'm not mad, because I understand the game, I understand the chess moves. And if you understand the chess moves, you will stop being emotional and you will stop getting mad about things that was never designed for your behind in the first place. I'm just being honest. I know some of y'all gonna feel some kind of way, but that's okay. That's okay. So let's go ahead and engage in this conversation. First and foremost, I want y'all to know that the image that's being put out there regarding abortion, regarding the overturning of Roe versus Wade, The image that is put out there, or the narrative is what I really should say. The narrative that has been put out there is that this is a fight to ban abortions and get America back to its God-fearing state. That is the narrative that is out there. That is what is being said. That is what they want us to go ahead and believe. They're also saying that this whole rights to an abortion is a liberal thing, and the rights to preserve your life, or the right to preserve life, is a conservative and a Christian thing, right? So that's the narrative that's being put out there. So I started to scratch my head. Y'all know how I get. Because when people get so gun-ho and they start bringing God into it, right, religion, and they start talking about Christianity, and you see all these white faces, and you see all these white women complaining, and no shade to white women. I'm just telling it what I see on the TV. I start to really scratch my head, and I start to really start digging a lot deeper than what meets the eye. Because you already know, as a critical thinker, I start to feel like there's something else going on here that we're not really talking about. So the narrative is pushed out there. This is a Christian thing, the Christian thing to do. We have to get America back to a God-fearing state. God has left America. This is a problem. So we have to fight against what the government is doing, because the government is going to send us all to hell. That's how I receive the information out there. Now, I'm not saying that you have to receive it that way. I'm saying that that's how I receive the information when I'm listening to some of these arguments, and I'm listening to what people are saying online, and some of the facts or some of the points that they're making. It starts to get really, really interesting to me. Listen, this is how I see it before I start getting into the details. Because the devil is in the details. But this is how I see it. This is just one fight against many fights that people, the voices that we are hearing, are pretty much saying are acts against God. This is just one fight. I know there's going to be a lot more fights that are going to come. And with every fight, it's going to affect different people for different reasons. And at every fight, they're going to leverage certain voices. We're going to get into those voices in a minute. They're going to leverage certain voices in order for their fight to become stronger. And this is where we, family, have to wake up. And we have to really see things for what it is. Now, what are some of the other fights that they're about to leverage? Once this whole ruling of Roe versus Wade got overturned. See, I'm not here to tell you guys whether I agree with it or disagree with it. That's neither here or there. All of that stuff is emotion, to be honest with you, in my opinion. All of that stuff is emotion. All of that stuff is meant to throw you off track. That stuff doesn't concern me, because whether it's legal or illegal, and I'm not saying I'm advocating for this, people are going to do what they got to do regardless. People have been doing what they had to do before it even became legal. So whether it's legal or illegal, people are going to make their decisions whether they lose their life or they keep their life. They're going to do what they have to do regardless. So my opinion of whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant for this conversation today. This is not why I'm here. I'm not here to persuade you whether or not we should have abortion or whether or not we should not have abortion. I am here to challenge your thoughts. I am here to help you to elevate your thinking so you can see this from a different angle. That's why I'm here. I'm here to let you guys know that there are going to be other things that's going to come about. I'm here to help you guys understand how laws actually work and how the Supreme Court is a major player in what's about to go down. See, I went digging. Because I said to myself, something else is going to happen. Once you start getting landmark cases like Roe versus Wade overturned, what else is at stake here? What else is going to happen? You see, if this is really a conservative Christian movement, if it really is, I'm saying if, right? If we're thinking critically here, if it really is another conservative Christian movement, then we have to start scratching our head about what is going to happen with respects to the agenda of the LGBTQ community. We have to start scratching our head to ask questions. What is going to happen with same-sex marriages? We're going to have to start scratching our head about what is going to happen with regards to what we are seeing among the transgender population. We have to start asking what is going to happen with respects to teaching gay rights in our schools. We're going to have to start asking what is going to happen with affirmative action. We're going to have to start asking what is going to start happening with a lot of rights that have been awarded to us with respects to the civil rights movement. What's going to happen? This fight is a messy one, in my opinion. It's a very, very messy fight. And all of those who are involved in this messy fight should be clear, in my opinion. Now, we all have different opinions. I'm just going to tell you mine because it's my platform. So I'm going to tell you my opinion. I think everyone that is involved in this messy fight needs to first be clear about the overall history in the agenda as it relates to Roe versus Wade. So this is going to be a little history lesson. I posted a poll, right, on my community channel on YouTube. Now, if you're on Facebook and you're not a part of the YouTube community, I suggest you go ahead and join and be a part of these polls that I put up on the YouTube community wall. And I asked my community, what do they believe this whole Roe versus Wade thing, the original case, how did it get started? Why was it there? I asked a certain amount of questions, and everyone who responded, not everyone, but a lot of people at the time that I last checked the poll who responded has said that it was pretty much a eugenics agenda. The second place to that response was it was a white woman's agenda. I think it's important that we know history. And the reason why I think it's important that we know history is because we can understand what's coming and we can better position ourselves and we can know what we need to be involved in, what we don't need to be involved with, and what we can do to strengthen our community, what we can do to protect our women, to protect our children, to protect our men. We have to know these things because when we are not the face of the history or the movement, we somehow tend to always be the backup plan, the plan B. In this case, whether you want to agree with it or not is your opinion. In this case, we're the plan B. So what am I talking about? First of all, if you look at the history of Roe versus Wade and how it all started, with all due respect, it was of a white woman's interest. I know some of y'all don't want to hear that. Let me just let y'all resonate on that for a little bit. Let it marinate, and then we're going to continue. Because somehow for some people, even in our community. When we start bringing race into situations, people get offended, they get emotional, they're no longer able to hear what the message is because their emotions are involved and they don't like to hear what goes down when we start to point out history and facts and how it always relates back to race. This was a fight that was of white women's interests, number one. It was also a fight that was a part of the feminist women's movement, number two. And I also believe, and I'm going to put a pin in this one, I also believe the overturning of Roe versus Wade is the catalyst to attack so many other civil rights that are at stake. See, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've been listening to a lot of voices. I've been listening to a lot of people's statements, their comments, their emotions. I've been listening to it. The people who I'm listening to is not relevant, but I've been listening to a lot of it. And I'm bringing it up because one thing I notice among our community, and we got to get this right, family. We got to get this right. I'm so tired of this in my community. But one thing I notice among our community is that we, as a people, we do a lot of code switching. We can never really choose sides and be consistent. How about this? We never really stand on our own morals, our own beliefs, our own thoughts. We do a lot of switching. And I find it very interesting, the conversations that are being had in the Black community regarding this overturning of Roe versus Wade. I find it very interesting. Let me tell you why I find it so interesting. Because we all know that Black people, you can read a lot of research about it, we seem to be among some of the most religious people. We are among some of the most religious groups. But for some reason, we don't stand on religion and hold that as true. Now, I'm not saying to stand on it because I'm not a religious person. I'm just saying, out of a lot of people, we are some of the most religious people. Give me 1 second, family. This is why I keep my phone on silent. This is why I keep my phone on silent. And people get mad when they say, well, I can never reach you. You never answer my phone call because y'all always call me at the most inopportune times. Why? Why? It's 10 o'clock at night. Why are you calling me? Send me a text message. I hate phone calls. That's just how I am. I just hate phone calls. But nonetheless, we are among some of the most religious groups. But when it comes to our faith and our religion, we flip-flop so much. Now, I'm not saying that this fight needs to be a religious fight. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I'm saying that when I look at this conversation, Roe versus Wade, follow me for a second, y'all. When I look at this conversation and I compare it to what other groups are saying, whites, Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Jewish people, you name it. When I look at other groups, the main voices seem to be white women and Black voices. Not all women. The main voices seem to be white women and Black voices. And among the Black voices, I get kind of confused. Because I just started to wonder, when did our voice change as a people? We're one of the most religious groups out there. And when you look at the research and you look at the polls, as the years go by, our thoughts as it concerns abortion and other acts, and I'm putting air quotes on purpose, not to offend anybody, but I'm putting them on purpose because not everyone has this belief, but I'm using it for the purpose of this conversation. But when we look at other acts against God, we are some of the most religious people. We have a lot of opinions when it comes to same-sex relationships and marriages. We have a lot of opinions when it comes to abortions. We have a lot of opinions when it comes to religion. But what I'm noticing is as the years go on, We switch and we change, but not because we do that as a community, as a whole, but because we're influenced. Oh, y'all don't know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna tell y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all. You look at the research regarding the attitudes of Blacks against abortion, you will see over the last 20 years, it has switched greatly. Blacks tend to adopt the views of white Democrats. I'm just going to tell y'all the truth. I'm just going to tell y'all the truth. It seems like whatever the Democratic Party says, or the Democratic Party. Now, let me stop. Y'all, the Democrats. I love that. But, I'm just saying. Whatever that party says, Blacks automatically switch their mindset and they just go with it. Our values seem to be aligned with the Democrats. Whatever they say we should think is important, you don't have to look at me. Go ahead and do the research. I thank you so much, Rach, or RJ. I was going to say your name. I thank you so much, RJ, for sharing this with me and doing the research so I can unpack it even more. Because with all the information that you send me, all the research that you send me, it seems like whenever they switch their ideology, their thoughts, we follow. We just go with it. Our values seem to be so aligned with theirs. And I gather out of that, it seems like whether it's done directly or indirectly, it seems that they tell us what is important to us. It seems like they tell us what we should care about versus what we should not be cared about. And it also seems like, based on the research, that we are being used as pawns. And it's a hard pill for so many of us to swallow when we point out that we are being used as pawns. See, whenever they feel like their voice is getting weak and they need their voice to get stronger, they always go and they start to sit down with the Black community. And for some reason, we're hard on our values initially. And then when they start coming in and they start having meetings with us, our values seem to shift and change and weaken over time. And the only community that gets impacted by it greatly is ours. Every time we change our values, every time we weaken our morals, every time we align ourselves with what the Democratic Party wants us to be aligned with, our community greatly suffers. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this because that's a hard pill to swallow. And you will have to really sit down and dig and do your research and go over the history to see, wow, there's some type of thread happening here. There's something happening here, and we don't realize that our community truly, our community is truly in the middle of a war. I'm just saying. What is the war? Some people may ask. They may say war. What the hell is she talking about? Because when we hear the word war, we tend to associate it with guns and violence and killings. That's what we tend to associate it with. And we don't understand that mental health in our community is under attack. We're at war when it comes to our mind. We're at war when it comes to our family units. We're at war when it comes to our values, our beliefs, our morals. We're at war. We're at war when it comes to our finances, economics. We're at war. We're at war in so many different areas. And when it comes to the Black family unit, see, everyone gets it. Everyone gets it. In order for us to be successful in this war, our families got to be intact. It's got to be intact. And the deconstruction of the Black family unit, as I would say, BFU, the Black family unit, the deconstruction of the Black family unit is a clear sign that we are at war. We have to stand firm in our position when it comes to this war. But you may ask, I may ask, what is our position when it comes to this war? If we know that our family units are under attack, if we know that When we align ourselves with people or entity that is not in alignment with us as a whole, but instead uses us when they find convenience in using us, if we align ourselves with fickle people, oh, so some of y'all don't get it. Let me say that to you in a different way, family. I'm gonna say it to you in a different way. You know how many of us feel about fickle people, right? We don't usually get down with fickle people who are indecisive, people who will shake your hands today and stab you in the back tomorrow, people who, they base their friendship off of what they can get out of you and what you are willing to do for them versus what you're not willing to do for people who will only give you something if they know that what they're going to get out of it is way greater than what they gave you. Fickle people. If we know code on the street or code on our street is not to entertain fickle people, why do we entertain such a fickle party? Now, I'm not advocating on what party you should be a part of. I can care less. It's two devils, right? I'm just saying, sometimes when you dance with the devil, you sit down, you eat with the devil, and you get burnt by the devil, you can't get mad at the devil. You actually got to get mad at yourself. See, the devil can't be trusted. The devil is a fickle entity. The devil will use you and abuse you and then throw you out for the wolves, throw you out to the streets. See, I know I'm speaking metaphorically, but I know a lot of y'all get what I'm saying. Whether you want to hear it or not, I know a lot of y'all get what I'm saying. See, we're dancing with the devil in this act. In this whole Roe versus Wade thing, we're dancing with the devil. And they have told us what we should get mad at. They have told us what we should believe. They have told us what is going to be bad for our community. They have told us what we should be angry at, what we should advocate for, what we should fight for. They have told us everything. My question is, as a community, as a whole, what do we believe? What do we believe? See, I went and I did some research. And I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked. And I said, I gotta be able to see what other communities are saying. I gotta be able to analyze what other communities are saying with respects to Roe versus Wade. And I looked up Asians for abortions. And I looked up Asians anti-abortions. I wanted to know what they were saying. And of course, the mainstream media is playing on the hearts of Asians too, but not how they're doing it to us. Instead, what I came up with when I looked up the Asians, what I came up with is an article that was under NBC News. Y'all can look it up yourself. You go ahead and Google it yourself. But what I came up with is exactly their argument when it comes to abortion and the bans on abortion. They spin the narrative that's saying that these people who want to ban abortion is using stereotypes or Asian tropes in sex selective abortions, right? So if you looked it up, if you go ahead and look it up, go ahead and Google Asians sex selective abortion. What the Asians are saying is part of the Asian trope is to believe that Asian people in Asian countries have selected to have abortions when the child is said to be a female. And so they're saying that that is a trope that research has debunked and said that that was not true. And American advocates for anti-abortion are using that as their leverage for abortion laws and try to further their fight for their rights to have abortion. So they're saying this is a trope that you're using and it hurts our community and you should not be saying it. But nowhere in that article do they talk about the statistics of Asian women who get abortions. Nowhere in that article do they talk about how Asians are impacted by mass abortions in their community. Nowhere do they talk about how abortion needs to remain because the Asian community is experiencing poverty or unwanted children or whatever the case is, and abortion is their right. Nowhere in that article does it talk about why abortion needs to remain legal because it will hurt so many Asian Americans. Y'all quiet in the chat. Did I miss y'all with that? Do I need to go back? Right? Do I need to go back and speak about this again? Do I need to say this in a different way because y'all too quiet in the chat? Let me say it to you in a different way because I want y'all to make some noise in the chat. I want to be able for you guys to respond. I want the people in the back. I want the people in the back to really hear me, right? You know, I want people in the back to really, really hear what I'm saying here. See, the media, such as NBC News, was trying to use the sex selective abortion trope that Asian countries, including Indians, Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, Indians, right? It's the Asian community, that they tend to go for sex selective abortions. See, in their voice in the media said that's a trope. We're not going to tolerate that trope. And that is not something that our community do. We do not use abortions to get rid of certain sexes. We do not use abortions because we want to have more male children. That is a trope that is disrespectful to our community, and we're not going to allow it. See, that paper, that article didn't talk about the abortions that Asians have. That article didn't talk about how many babies are being killed. Asian genocide. It didn't talk about that in that article. It didn't talk about how many Asians utilize abortion clinics or services such as Planned Parenthood to either prevent pregnancies or rid themselves of unwanted pregnancies. Let's see that agency, that article didn't talk about anything about that. But that same mainstream media source, NBC News, has an article. Y'all can look this up yourself because you know how I get down. You can look it up yourself. I'm going to give you facts over fiction. The same media source has an article titled Black Women in the Fight for Abortion Rights. How this brochure, and I'm going to talk about that brochure, sparked a movement for reproductive freedom. And in that article, it talks about how Black women will be hurt the most if abortion bans are put into place. This was done before the Roe versus Wade decision came about. It talked about how many abortions are performed on Black women. It talked about how Black women are poor and they need to have their reproductive rights protected. They need to have access to abortions. They need to have access to contraceptives. And if this was taken away from them, it will greatly hurt the Black community. See, do y'all see what's happening here? Do you see what is happening here? See, this is way bigger than what meets the eye. This is way bigger than what you guys really want to believe it is. But I really need y'all to put on your critical thinking caps and take them emotions and throw them out the window because this is not an emotional fight. This is a chess move. Shout out to Slim Cool in the chat. I believe that's the brother I met in Vegas, right? When I was walking down Vegas. Is that you, Slim Cool? Let me know if that's you. When you ran up on me in Vegas to see if I was Dr. Shonna, you almost got your ass maced. Because y'all know I don't play them kind of games. I believe that's the brother, but correct me if I'm wrong. But shout out to Slim Cool anyway, because he's always here shouting me out. I really do appreciate Slim Cool. I got to post a picture of him if that's him. But nonetheless, We got to understand that it's a all-out attack on our community. It's an all-out attack on a Black family unit, and we are used as pawn in their strategy. See, in order for you to understand what I'm saying, you have to first understand how Roe versus Wade came into existence in the first place. Right? So let's talk about that. Y'all okay if I just get into the history for just a little bit? Because some of the stuff that I put in the community poll on my community page, it was concerning the way you guys answered that poll. Very concerning. And I could just see that my community doesn't do a good job, or we need to do a better job at unpacking things and researching things and getting a better understanding before we get ourselves upset. Now, I want you guys to really understand what I'm saying here and hear me clearly. This is not about me saying abortion is right or abortion is wrong. This is not about me advocating to be pro-choice or be pro-life. This is about me sharing with you guys the need to think critically so we can understand what position we are on when it comes to this game at life. We need to be able to understand what position on a chessboard we are playing. Do you want to be a pawn? Do you want to be a knight? Do you want to be a bishop? Do you want to be a king? Do you want to be a queen? You got to understand what position you are on, because some of y'all think you're in a higher position when you're just pawns. That's all I'm saying. Let's go over the history for a little bit so y'all can really understand whose fight is this anyway? Whose fight is this anyway? And then I'm going to let you know what we can do as a community going forward and how we have to get better with how we are showing up when it comes to things that is hurting our community. So let's go over the history. First of all, when it comes to the history of Roe versus Wade, it is important for you to know the plaintiff, the person whose name was used as the name in this case, whose face was eventually used as the face in this case. The plaintiff was Norma McCorvey. She used the pseudonym of Jane Roe, hence Roe versus Wade. This woman is very interesting, in my opinion. A very, very interesting woman. See, Norma wasn't pro-choice. Norma wasn't an abortion advocate. Norma was a white woman who was pregnant not once, not twice, but 3 times. She was a white woman who wanted an abortion because she could not afford to raise any of her children. She was a white woman who went to go get an abortion in Texas at a time where it was illegal. She was trying to strategize and think about how she was going to get this abortion performed because she didn't have the money to go to another state that may have supported abortion or to go out of the country to have an abortion. She didn't have the money because this was a poor white woman. She was born to a family that had religious values and religious beliefs. She was born to a mother who abused alcohol. She was born to a father who abandoned their family after the mother and the father divorced. She was born to a mother who was Christian, but a father who led the family through Jehovah's Witness ways. In her later life, she became an evangelical Protestant. And later, she changed over to becoming a Roman Christian. A Roman Catholic. I apologize, a Roman Catholic. She was a woman that actually, in her later years, took a part of the anti-abortion movement. Anti-abortion, against abortion, not for abortion, anti-abortion. Well, how did that happen? How did the face of Roe versus Wade all of a sudden become part of an anti-abortion movement? She was later recorded by saying the abortions that she had, and the role that she took on when it came to Roe versus Wade was one of her biggest mistakes in life. She said that she was paid. There's a lesson in all of this. Y'all listen to me now. She said that she was paid to be a voice. To be a voice in the abortion movement. That's not something she signed up to do. See, you got to understand that this woman here, this poor white woman that was pregnant 3 times, that came from a divorce home, that was raised by an abusive mother, you got to understand that her life was tumultuous. She did not have an easy life like many of us in our community can relate to. Her life was not easy by any account. She was a troubled teenager. She became a ward of the state for committing offenses as a juvenile. She was raped over and over again by a cousin when she was a teen, a cousin who denied that he had raped her and told her mama that she was a liar. She went off to boarding school because she was a hot goddamn mess. She got married at 16, left her husband due to domestic violence. She became a mom at 18. She used to leave her baby with her mama while she ran the street, abusing alcohol and abusing drugs. She later started to identify as a lesbian. Do y'all hear me? As a lesbian. She said she was tricked to giving her oldest daughter up, Melissa, for adoption, but her mother said no, she willingly gave her daughter up for adoption. Not only did she give her first child up for adoption, she gave up her second and her third child up for adoption. When she got pregnant for the third time, she was trying to think about some strategic ways of how she can get an abortion in Texas legally because she couldn't afford to leave Texas to get an abortion. So she concocted a wonderful story. It really wasn't a wonderful story. I'm being facetious. But she concocted a wonderful story by saying a black man raped her. Because she believed, based off of her friends talking in her ear, that if she was to say that a black man raped her, she probably would be eligible for an abortion in the state of Texas. That didn't work. That lie didn't work. She later admitted to her lie and recanted her lie. It didn't work. So she came across this man who was talking to her about putting yet again her third child up for adoption. And he pointed her in the direction of an attorney named Sarah Weddington and another attorney who worked with Sarah named Linda Coffey. Now, she was pregnant when she went to these attorneys. See, what she always wanted was an abortion. She never knew that going to speak to Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey, she was only a pawn on their chessboard. I'm just trying to tell y'all. See, it's important for you to know that because, see, Sarah Weddington had her own story. She had her own history. She had her own strategy. She had her own agenda. And this poor white woman who was pregnant not once, not twice, but 3 times, and she raised none of her children. She used that poor, ratchet white woman for her benefit. See, you got to understand Sarah Weddington, and you have to understand where she was at in the 70s and why she saw this as an opportunity for her own advancement. See, she wasn't trying to help that poor white woman out. She wasn't concerned about that poor white woman giving birth to yet again a third child with no money, no education, no husband, no income, no adequate way of raising this child. She wasn't concerned that that child might be the subject of abuse or neglect because of the lack of education and the lack of finances. She wasn't concerned about any of that. She was concerned about herself. Who was Sarah Weddington? Who was Sarah Weddington? See, Sarah Weddington was a white woman as well. She was a white woman who was gang for women's rights. She was a white woman who was gang for women's reproductive health. She was raised a Christian. She did well educationally, graduated high school early, right? She went on to college. She later went on to law school. And the reason why she went on to law school is because she was one of those white women that wanted to prove their independence. She wanted to prove that she was equal to white men. See, this wasn't a black woman or a black woman or a black man fight. They weren't thinking about you, black man. They weren't thinking about you, black woman. They weren't thinking about y'all. See, she became upset when a white man told her that white women won't do well in law school. So in an effort to prove him wrong, she applied and got accepted to law school. She wanted to be able to prove that women, white women, can and will do it. And while she was in law school, 1967, she became knocked up. Okay, the research says pregnant. The research says pregnant, but y'all already know how we do in our community, right? 1967, she was unwed. She got knocked up. Y'all already know how we do. She got knocked up. She got knocked up in 1967. She went to Mexico for an illegal abortion. That same year, she graduated law school. She went on to apply to jobs, but she wasn't able to get employment. So what did she do? See, I'm going to tell you how this all ties together. Y'all with me? Put your seatbelts on, because we got to understand this stuff critically. Okay? So she's searching for a job in the late 60s, early 70s, and nobody is hiring her because women couldn't do it. When nobody was hiring black women attorneys, and I don't even know how many black women attorneys was out there in the 60s, right? But they damn sure wasn't hiring us if we was out there, because you already know how it was in the 60s, right? You already know how it was in the 60s. You already know how it was in the 70s. So this wasn't our fight. So when she wasn't getting hired, she connected. Networking. See, the first thing I want you to write down is networking is key. That's the first lesson in this whole damn strategy, because we on a chessboard, and I'm gonna teach y'all how to play chess of life, not the chess you used to playing. I'm gonna teach y'all how to play chess of life. We are all on a chessboard, and she was too. And so now she's out there trying to get herself a job, and she's getting turned down left and right because they weren't hiring women attorneys like that. So she couldn't get herself a job. So she hooked up with other law graduates, and they started to research different statuses out there, different state statutes, not statuses. I meant to say statutes. She started to research different statutes out there regarding abortion. See, she already had a personal story connected to abortion. See, in 1967, her behind went to Mexico and got a legal abortion. Just like somebody said, just like women going to Mexico. I don't know if they're going to Mexico to get illegal BBLs. I think their asses are going to DR. But nonetheless, I get your point. She went to Mexico and she said, well, I know a doctor in Mexico that would do it for a couple of bands. Let me go out to Mexico and get myself an abortion. And so that became her fight. Because that experience, ladies, come on now. Can we just talk real as women for a second? That experience is a hard experience to stomach. I got women in their 40s. I got women in their 50s, their 60s that still are impacted by the abortions they had in their 20s or in their teens. I still got women. So we all know that that experience is not an easy experience to stomach. So that was the experience that became her drive. So she hooked up with other lawyers who was out of work and was looking at statutes to make a name for themselves in the legal field. And along came Norma McCorvey, aka Jane Roe, aka Roe versus Wade, because she was desperate for an attorney. She was uneducated. She was poor. She was silly as they come. She ain't know what she was doing. She just was going where people was referring her to go because her goal was an abortion. So they sent her to Sarah Weddington. And they said, go talk to her because they knew that Sarah Weddington and her accomplice, Miss Coffey, Linda Coffey, were looking for people that they can put on a case so that they can challenge the laws that had to do with abortions. Right? And so they referred her to him and they filed a lawsuit on her behalf. By the time the lawsuit was heard by the Supreme Court, Jane Roe, Norma McCorvey, same person, one and the same, had already given birth and had already put that child up for adoption. And they used her as the face. They used her as the pawn. And she meaning Sarah Weddington, became popular. And then all of a sudden, she's appointed to different positions. She was in a political world. She got appointed to political positions. She automatically started to move up in her field as an attorney. And the whole time this is happening, it is happening as a fight for abortion with the people who were white in mind. They didn't use any black women as their case or as their face or as their argument. Black women were having abortions in alleys. Black women were dying left and right from illegal abortions. They weren't using black women as a face or a voice to be able to say we have to legalize abortion because black women are losing their lives. See, this is a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow because a lot of people, their mindset is from today. And they don't really understand the history and how the history continuously repeats itself. Oh, I know y'all don't like to hear that. Because we are moving toward a colorblind society, right? Oh, we're going to get into that when I introduce you guys to the new overturning of some laws, like the Miranda rights laws. And when I introduce you guys to what's going down with affirmative action, oh, your asses are going to be mad when I tell you what's about to go down the Supreme Court as it relates to affirmative action, because we are moving towards a colorblind society where people don't see color. Oh, they weren't worrying about your black voices. They weren't worried about your black faces. They were not worrying about you whatsoever. Right? They weren't worrying about you whatsoever. They don't care about you whatsoever. So when did the black voices get so prominent? When did black women become so involved in abortion rights? Let me introduce y'all to Faye Waddleton. She was the first black woman president of Planned Parenthood. How did she get there? How did she become the president of Planned Parenthood? See, y'all got to understand, I ain't taking no position. I ain't telling you it's right. I ain't telling you it's wrong. I'm telling you, you got to think critically and understand where you are at on the chessboard. You can have your opinion. You can be upset. You could be angry. You can get out there with your posters. You can march. You can get mad at men if you want to. No, you could do a whole bunch of stuff. You do whatever the hell you want to do. It ain't gonna make no difference to me. I don't have a leg in this fight. But I am gonna give you the history. I am gonna let you know that when black women, y'all ain't gonna like this. That's okay though. That's okay. When black women start feeling some kind of way that they're not represented in these entities, whether it is among the Democratic Party or whether it is among businesses or organizations that were formed that never had us in mind, when they start getting upset and they say that we are not represented, we have a voice, we're not being seen, we don't see people who look like us, no one is helping us out, we are dying left and right. See, when they start getting upset and their voice starts getting loud and white people start to feel threatened that the laws that they've been fighting for to get changed is at risk of harm. See, y'all think this Roe versus Wade is a new fight. This fight has been in existence since the 60s and before. This is not a new fight. And when Roe versus Wade was granted, they've been trying to overturn that joker ever since. This has been a white woman fight for a very long time. And when it became legal, of course, trickled down. It trickled down to our community. It trickled down to our community, giving us access to abortions, and then other things spun off. Planned Parenthood, we already know what it's about. But this conversation is not about Planned Parenthood. But we already know what Planned Parenthood is about. We already know some of the articles and the research that's out there on Margaret Sanger. We already know what some of this is about. But this conversation is not about that. My point is, when they start to realize, ooh, this is getting crazy. This is getting crazy. And we run the risk of this getting overturned. See, when laws get overturned in our head, we act like this is a new thing. This is not a new thing. They've been trying to overturn this law since the 70s. It just wasn't making mainstream news on an ongoing basis. See, this has been on the chopping block for a very long time. And anytime they try to strengthen their argument and strengthen their fight, they sit down at the table with some sisters. I had to pause on that for a second because I know y'all don't want to hear that. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but if you go and you look at it, and you look at who's talking and who's doing what, and even though you hear a voice that looks like you, can relate to you talking, black women, you hear the voice, behind them is a woman that don't look nothing like them. Is an organization ran by women that don't look nothing like them. And that's what happened. See, that's how Faye Weddleton got into that position of being the president of Planned Parenthood in the first place. And then they use her face and her voice to get up there in 1989 and speak out against the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court ruled in the Webster versus Reproductive Health Services case. See, Faye's argument was for poor women who couldn't afford an abortion because the law was trying to restrict federal dollars from being used for abortions. And of course, if you restrict federal dollars, you also restrict doctors from performing abortions who accept federal dollars into their business. See, that's what it really was about. And once she got up there and her voice became loud, other black women started to piggyback on her voice. There was an article, a pamphlet, a brochure, the brochure that was put out This is the brochure that the NBC News highlighted, because this brochure was called We Remember, and it was released 30 years ago, advocating for Black women's rights to choose. And in this brochure, they use some very prominent names to support their claims and to get other Black women to get on board. And some of the popular Black women voices that they were using was Shirley Chisholm, Maxine Waters, Dorothy Height. These were some really popular power women, power Black women who jumped on board. It was 16 Black women, but these were some names that people knew because they were the popular Black women. They were the Black women that were in articles. They were the Black women that we were seeing on TV. And you know how it is. When you got a strong Black woman and they can command the attention of an audience, a certain type of person or people always want to whisper in the ear and say, I got a proposition for you. I got a proposition for you. How about we work together? How about we work together? See, when you understand this game called chess, when it relates to life as we know it, then you would know the person that says, I got a proposition for you, has identified your ass as a pawn. And of course, we wanted our voices to be heard. So we went along with their proposition and produced a pamphlet, gave them all the information to go into the pamphlet so we can go ahead and circulate the pamphlet among other Black women in our community, because we were going to give those other Black women a voice to speak out against their experiences with abortion. The Black women who were afraid of saying something because they were coming from religious families and they did not want to be ostracized or singled out, and they did not want their voices to be muted. So they wanted to be able to stand and have their voices heard. And when you have these powerful Black women with these powerful Black names with the backing of white women, how can you go wrong? How can you go wrong? You see, I know some of y'all don't believe me. I know some of you, and that's okay. That's okay. You can always Google anything I'm telling you. Don't get mad. Get critical in your thinking. This is not about whether it's right or wrong. This is about understanding the position on the chessboard that you are in. See, Faye was the president of Planned Parenthood. But who are the founders of Planned Parenthood, and who were the funders of Planned Parenthood? See, I always tell you to follow what? When you really want to know whose agenda is being pushed, you got to follow what? The money trail. You got to follow the dollars. You got to follow the funding. Follow the money, and that will tell you the agenda. See, in 1989, Planned Parenthood sponsored the production of this pamphlet. You know what it is when you sponsor something, you put money out. They sponsored the production of this pamphlet. And back in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, they produced 250,000 pamphlets to be distributed among the Black community. There were some people in the Black community that came forward to speak out, and they felt like finally my voice is being heard, while there were so many other women who didn't say anything because they were afraid of the opinions of the religious communities in which they belong. See, because Black people are among the most religious people. So what you see in today has been in the works for 30, 40 years. This is nothing new. And what you're seeing today did not start with your black behind, as my mama would say. This ain't your fight. Sit your black behind down. But at the end of the day, what I want you to take away from this is the strategy. I can care less about the other issues because I believe that people make their own individual choices, they make their own individual decisions, and whatever comes about, whatever consequences comes about, because there's always going to be consequences with every decision. Consequences come. That's universal law. Whatever those consequences are, you'll face them, you'll deal with them. If you need therapy, you'll go to therapy. There's no right, there's no wrong. Whatever you decide is what you decide. That's your business. I'm not here to tell you what you should decide and what you should not decide. I want you to understand your role in this game called chess. I want you to understand your options when it comes to this game at chess. You don't like something, get in a picket and marching in this day and age. See, maybe it worked in 1952, 1954, 1963. See, maybe it worked during that time because TV was hot during that time. It was new. It was new on the scene. So they wanted to get stories. They wanted to cover stories. So maybe the protester will work then. It's just not going to work right now, baby. See, what I'm learning from all of these things that's happening, including the changes that's about to come down with affirmative action. See, I gave y'all a video not too long ago when I said Asians are on it because they're suing Harvard. I told y'all about that, but I'm going to let y'all know what's about to go down because it's on the Supreme Court's desk right now. And y'all don't listen to me. The shit that you should be mad about, you're not mad about. You don't pay any mind until after the fact. It's sort of like these black women here, the 16 black women. See, we pay it mind after the fact. But if we look at the lesson that's really at hand, and we look at how Sarah Weddington, Linda Coffey, and them and others were moving, see, they know that in order for you to get things that you want, you got to be political. See, everything is political. Everything is political. You can have all the opinions that you have in the world. If you don't put it into politics, your opinions doesn't really matter. I know you don't like to hear that. It's okay. But if you look at what happened here, see, Sarah Weddington saw an opportunity. She saw a poor white woman because people were sympathetic to white women. See, it was no shit. There was a whole bunch of black poor women she could have choose from. There was a whole bunch of poor black women having abortions in alleyways, losing their life. There was a bunch of black women she could have choose from, but ain't nobody was going to hear the voice of a black woman and care during that time. It was a chess move. So what can we learn from this chess move, in my opinion? Here's what I learned. You could tell me what you learned, but here's what I learned. If you want to get something done, you got to get political. You also got to see who you're going to use on the chessboard as a pawn in order for you to get what you want. So you got to step on some heads. Ooh. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's what I'm learning. See, we didn't create this game. We didn't create this chessboard in America. This ain't our game. We just pawns on this game. But what I'm learning, see, if you want to get good at playing a game, you got to watch the experts. You got to see how the experts move in a room full of vultures. Y'all know where I got that line from, right? But I'm serious. You got to see how the experts move. You got to see how the movers and the shakers move. You got to see how they see. Y'all may not like, see, y'all emotions get involved. Y'all don't like playing the game because it hurts your feelings. But your feelings don't matter. It's kill or be killed. It's eat or starve, baby. And y'all so emotional. Y'all really think this is about, oh, we just want to make sure that Black women's rights are heard. We just want to make sure that Black women have a voice in this. Get the, yep. When they start caring about Black voices, when they get interested in Black voices, you need to scratch your head and be like, why? Why you want me to talk? Why you want my voice? You got to start asking that critical question of why. What you get out of this? You got to start asking that question. You got to start becoming suspicious. So you want me to get on the stage and yell for these rights. You want me to do it because you're so concerned about my community, but when my community is hurting, I don't see you. What you get out of this? What's really going on behind the screen? You have to start asking those kind of questions. Just telling you the truth. See, I sat back and I put the pieces on the chessboard and I said, wow, Sarah couldn't get a job. Sarah graduated law school at a time where women were not graduating law school, when women were struggling, when women was trying to get their voices heard. White women, that is, white women. Because our asses, Black women, we've been working since the days of slavery. Our asses been working. But nonetheless, you know what I mean? They couldn't get their voices heard. So since she couldn't get hired, oh, ain't that a chess move? She created her own goddamn job. That's what I be trying to tell y'all. I be trying to tell y'all all the time. If they ain't gonna hire you, create your own goddamn job. She created hers. She created hers, baby. She created hers. She makes sure she secured the bag, baby. Y'all talking about securing the bag. You ain't securing no bag. She secured the bag. She makes sure she got it in. Feel what I'm saying? You understand me? And she said, in order for me to do this, I got to get something that sticks. Oh, look at the poor white woman that had 3 children, or 2 at the time, 2 children of adoption, pregnant for a 3rd time, ain't got no viable husband, ain't got no job, ain't got no education. Oh, this is perfect. Let me go ahead and use this woman. They do that right now, today, 2022, with our community. Where's the poor, uneducated Black woman who ain't got no job, who ain't got no husband, who got 4,000 children, who live in the projects with her ceiling falling down, who ain't got no job, no car, on welfare. Her child is in jail. The other child is pregnant at 14. Where's the worst type of Black woman we can get to put in the front so we can use that voice for our game? See, that sounds like a hard pill to swallow. That is still their strategy. It's a great chess move. But when it comes to us, what are we doing? See, if you want to be able to change some laws, you got to get in front of the right people. See, I didn't even tell y'all that Sarah had a connect among the Supreme Court judges. She had a connect. I think she was connected in law school with one of these ladies, or connected as a lawyer with one of the judges. She already had a connection. She planned her whole strategy out. She did it at a time when she knew she was going to get the voice of one of her connects. Somebody said poverty pimping. That's a good one, but you know you ain't never lie. Poverty pimping all day, day, right? Poverty pimping. That's how you got to do it. That's a chess move. I can unpack this whole case and show you guys chess move after chess move after chess move after chess move. There's so many chess moves. I could just keep on unpacking this joker left and right, and see how you're just a pawn on their chessboard. So what's coming next? What's the next thing they're going to attack? See, because this has nothing to do with the Christians going crazy and wanting their rights. This has nothing to do with the Christians wanting God back in America. This has nothing to do with the Christians getting tired of acts against God. You lesbians and gay people, that ain't got nothing to do with it. Because half the people that be preaching all that stuff, their children are same-sex people too. They're just using it as a pawn as well. See, this is way greater than that. This is way bigger than what meets the eye. We know that civil rights is under attack. And they're going to use this to overturn a lot of laws, baby. A lot of laws that are not clearly protected by the Constitution. Hence the word clearly. Underline it, circle, dot it, star it, highlight it, put an exclamation point next to it. Clearly documented in the Constitution. Anything that's nebulous, unclear, vague is up to interpretation and can be overturned. So while you guys are making all these noises, hooping and hollering and marching, oh, our reproductive stomachs, our wounds are being policed. And I get it. I get it. I understand. I understand why that's important. I'm not taking that away from anybody. I understand it 100% totally. I understand the argument from both positions. I understand it from pro choice. I understand it from pro life. I understand it from both positions, but that's not my argument here. That's not of my concern for this video. For this video, I can care less. It's about understanding that shit is about to go down. And we always late to the party. Everybody know about the invitation. Everybody know about the dress code. Everybody know what time to show up. Everybody know what plate to bring. And we the only ones showing up eating leftovers. Why? We showing up late because we just found out about the party. Why? You better know what party is about to go down. You better know what party is about to go down. And I'm going to be telling y'all what parties is about to go down. Thanks to my researchers that's helping me out, because I wouldn't be able to do this weekly if it wasn't for them. So I want y'all to shout out my researchers, both RJ and Neek. Shout them out. Because we're doing the real work. We're unpacking it. We're discovering it. We're bringing it to you raw because ain't nobody else going to tell you. Everyone else is going to tell you the narrative of the Democratic Party. Everybody else is going to tell you the narrative of the liberals that they want you to reiterate, that they want you to speak about, because for some reason we're losing our voice. For some reason, we're losing our critical thought. For some reason, we're adopting other people's cultures, other people's beliefs, and other people's ideas. We need to learn how to unpack this shit for ourselves, because at the end of the day, the same people we helping is hurting us. The same hand we shaking when we turn around is stabbing us in the back, and a lot of us about to get stabbed in the back real serious. And we ain't gonna know what happened. We're gonna turn around like, wow, I thought you was my friend. I'm so tired of us doing that. I thought you was my friend. I'm so tired of us doing that. Right? I'm so tired of it. But every time I tell y'all the truth, every time I tell y'all what's going to go down, y'all tend to think it's a game. Some of y'all ignore me. Some of you be like, oh, she's just an angry black woman. I ain't angry. I ain't got no reason to be angry. I live a nice life. But I ain't stupid. I ain't walking out here like, yeah, I'm going to get on the mic and I'm going to speak on behalf of your movement. No, no, and no. Starting with an N and ending with the O. No, I'm not going to do that. Because it's a cost for everything we are doing. And the minute I start speaking about things and helping and overturning things and all the other yah, rah stuff, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to look, ain't nobody going to be there. Ain't going to be nobody but me. And that's what's been happening to us, brothers and sisters. Every time we turn around, there ain't nobody there but us. And everybody who said they were our friends ain't there when the truth hits the fan. After it's said and done, they get what they want. They get up, they get dressed, and they leave like a bad sex date. Just trying to tell y'all the truth. Y'all all excited, thinking we making change, we doing great things, and they leave you feeling like a jump off. Right? I'm just trying to tell you the truth. Right? So as I said, shout out to all my researchers. Shout out to Neek. I want to thank you so much. And Nick, we're about to get that going with your Miranda's rights. Neek is under the Miranda rights. You're gonna see what she brings up, right? And then we have RJ as well. I was looking for RJ to put her up there, but I can't see her right now. But RJ as well. Here she goes. We got RJ up here on the scene. Give RJ a shout out for this one right here, Roe versus Wade, because we unpacked it. It's not about being emotional. It's about being critical. So, what are you going to do? How are you going to strategize? What are you going to do to make sure you get the changes you need legally? And what are you going to do to stop jokers from using your face, your voice, your plight, your story, your trauma, your adverse childhood experiences to stop using those situations to get their gain, to get their jobs, to secure their bag? Ooh, ooh, ooh. What are you going to do to stop that from happening? I love every last one of y'all. Make sure you go ahead and visit my site, helpingcouplesreconnect.com, so you can go ahead and turn up the heat in the romance in your bedroom and keep them Black families together, because together we're stronger, divided we fall. I love you all. Have a great night.